Well, Jesus Christ, or should I say, holy Boba Fett. That episode of The Mandalorian was honestly, that ending in particular was. Spoiler alert, but if you're watching this review, you should know this is spoilers. But if you would have told me you would have seen like all those Mandalorians appear the way they did at the end of that episode in live action, it was just. As a Star Wars fan, and I've been like a fan of just like the Mandalorians like ever since way back since I was even playing the Knights of the Old Republic games when I was a kid. So seeing this happen on screen was just man, as you can tell, I'm fanboying out. I was speechless when I was watching it. My jaw was dropped. I was really emotional, and what they're doing with the Mandalorian is just so goddamn impressive. And I know this show has already been getting high reviews, and you know, like in the first episode, people absolutely loved it. Episode 2, of course, it was a big hit still with Baby Yoda, but people said it was kind of like a little bit of a drop maybe. There wasn't as much action in the way that there was set up in the first episode, but it feels like in this third episode, things just go back like to the first episode. Not that the second episode was bad, I'm not saying that, it went along a different route, wasn't it? And it was good in many other ways. But this episode, wow. I know I'm kind of late with this Mandalorian episode 3 or chapter 3 review, breakdown, whatever, but I still wanted to give my 2 cents on it. Leave a like on this video if you still want to see some Mandalorian reviews on the channel week to week. But that is, let's just get into talking about this episode, because this, as we all know, at the end of the last episode, he secured the bounty of Baby Yoda. I said at the end of my last review, what is the Mandalorian really going to do? Deep down, I think we all kind of knew he wouldn't go through with it properly. But, you know, it still remained a mystery. He's still a bounty hunter. He's still a guy who goes up to people saying, look, I could bring you in cold or warm. Like, he's not so sentimental. And that, you know, it's a very interesting profession, as they say. So, you know, what will a baby do to the Mandalorian's mind? And he had a guilty spot this episode. He couldn't necessarily go through with it. And that made me very, very happy, because towards the beginning of the episode, of course, we saw him drop Baby Yoda off to the client after getting that message from Grief Karga in the Razor Crest. And honestly, all of those scenes leading up to when the Mandalorian was dropping off Baby Yoda to the Empire or Imperial Warlord, if you know what I mean, my heart was breaking, and so was his, to be honest. Like he's more sentimental than what that's the brilliant thing about just the Mandalorian in general, like with him keeping his mask on the whole time. And we got a bit of context into that anyway this episode, in terms of, you know, have you ever taken your mask off? No. Has anyone else taken your mask off? No. This is the way, kind of thing. But not saying that won't happen eventually, but what I'm trying to point out here is keeping that mask on as this, some people like criticize it, but I guess I can see where they're coming from, but as this element of, you know, you can't read the human expression on the face, yet it offers such an interesting way for the Mandalorian to get that across. You can, I find it incredible when you can tell how the Mandalorian is feeling when, yeah, there's no expression coming through. That when a director or an actor or just anything to do with the production or for that episode on that set in that scene can pull that off, then it's even more interesting sometimes than actually seeing Pedro Pascal's face, which, you know, I'm sure we will get. But yeah, let's just say my heart was breaking. But this is when he was offered that handsome reward of Bescart steel, which we already know the Mandalorians hold very dear. We got you know, great teasers into the Great Purge, where the Mandalorians seemingly lost all of the Bescart steel, potentially their homeworld, and that's why we found out they're in hiding this episode. There's a lot of very interesting lore being discovered since the time of Star Wars Rebels, and that's very intriguing to me, and I'm sure many of you as well. I can't wait to find out more about that. We still don't definitively know what the Great Purge was, but we just know that it was more or less the time that was made very unsafe for Mandalorians, which is why they're in hiding now. I think there was around 20 slabs of Beskar steel, so when he went in there, I love how it got all of the attention of the other Mandalorians. I didn't actually necessarily expect that. When I saw them all looking at him, I was like, okay, fair enough. He's just walking in there with a massive crate. But then they all came in, and it even got to the point of blows with another Mandalorian due to the nature of what happened in the Great Purge from the Empire and the Mandalorians. Seeing these Beskar steel slabs, emblemed with like the Empire logo. They were really not happy, calling him even a coward for sitting across the table of the Empire. But like, no, he's not like that. If anything, he wanted to donate half of it to the Mandalorian cause. Like, this isn't just for him. Granted that he does get a whole new pauldron, like a chest torso plate, which looks so good. I can't wait till he just completes everything. It already kind of looks that way anyway, but man, I just love everything about this show. But even though there was that conflict, I do get it. Like, they're living in very lawless times. Not only that, their whole race of people essentially is, as the Mandalorian, well, this other Mandalorian explained, that their world was shattered by the Empire and that they live, hidden like sand rats, and they can only come above ground like one at a time, which is insane, which made that ending to the episode so much more profound. Now, as we know of last episode as well, he doesn't have a signet, and he was even asked about the damage that was caused to his previous pauldron, the one that literally got torn because it wasn't Beskar steel, and that was by the Mudhorn, and he was going to get that signet, that basically like kind of emblem, but he was like, no, it wasn't like a worthy kill. And I've seen a lot of people saying, well, fair enough to that, but what should his signet be? Baby Yoda. And I was just like, you know what, as cheesy as that is, it kind of is perfect. He's going out of his way to protect this Baby Yoda. Like, this is really a joke, but that would be pretty funny if he somehow did that. But yeah, just imagine the Mandalorian walking around with that signet. That'd just be hilarious. In this moment as well, we got flashbacks, more flashbacks to the Clone Wars of his origin, more or less the same kind of flashbacks where he was kind of hidden in that little like kind of trash, I don't know, where his parents kind of hid him in there. We got an actual real glimpse at a super battle droid, which was awesome. It didn't look like CGI. I mean, it probably was, but I was like, wow, is that like a proper practical? I mean, it was probably CGI, but you know what I mean. We actually had a droid gunner ship as well, and what I like about these as well is it's kind of, I'm sure we're going to get a lot more insight into it rather than quick flashes at the freaking, hammering of the armorer, but it gives you the perspective of when you think of the Clone Wars. Now, say what you will about the prequels, but you think, okay, this is a serious war, but you don't really take it too seriously because you see a load of Jedi swinging lightsabers at a load of stupid, Federation droids or something like that, right? But this shows the perspective of innocent civilians getting absolutely hammered by super battle droids. So, I appreciate that. Just like Rogue One kind of gave you another insight into Star Wars universe, for the first time, it felt completely outside what we were used to. The Mandalorian is delivering on that, but, in overdrive. This is where he wants to go get a new job from Grief Karga. He gets a new bounty, but then he also inquires into the kid yet again, kind of, planting those seeds throughout the episode that he really does care. I also like that he immediately just wanted a new job. Like, Grief Karga was telling him to go relax, maybe get high on some spice, but he was just like, no, new job. Like, that's what I like about this Mandalorian. I think he really kind of wants to prove himself, and this kind of adds even more that he might not be in a direct lineage of an actual Mandalorian family, if that makes sense. He's more like, it was a foundling after he was saved from that Clone Wars flashback battle, and ever since then he's been trying to prove his worth, and hopefully, to be honest, I can see this progressing over the long period with him becoming a seriously high-ranking member of the Mandalorians. Like, I'm not saying he's got to become Mandalore or anything like that, but you kind of know what I mean. Like, I mean, that would be awesome, though. I also appreciated what Grief Karga did say about the Empire. Like, they're gone, but if you do care about it that much, you can always go to the core worlds and report them to the New Republic. And his instant reaction, because... Well, let's first say his instant reaction. He was just like, that's such a joke, And I loved that because it's like, yes, the Empire's defeated. There are only crime lords and warlords left. But even though there is a whole New Republic set up, they're so newbie and it takes so long, so many years for that to get established by, Leia Organa and all the other leaders of the New Republic that we actually got seen blasted away in The Force Awakens from the Starkiller base. At this point in time, it's just like, as if they're going to really rise up to become anything. Even though they won, they're still such a joke. They don't really have much control. They haven't asserted too much control. Granted, this is post-Battle of Jakku, so the Empire kind of truly are defeated. There's no, dominant New Republic control everywhere like there was with the Empire. This is where the Mandalorian heads back to the Warlord's room, and we get a little tease at what they were doing with Baby Yoda. So when he was looking and hearing through that like audio device on his weapon, he picked up a bit of their chatter saying, extract the necessary material and be done with it. He has explicitly ordered us to bring it back alive. Finish your business quickly, for I can no longer guarantee your safety. So even though we found out that the Camino kind of cloning kind of guy, Dr. Persha, I believe his name was, because he's got the emblem of the Camino cloning facility, which is why a lot of these cloning theories were coming out there. I liked how he was, really wanting to protect the kid. If anything, that Imperial interrogation droid was, keeping him in line, not for actually Baby Yoda, by the way. So I like that guy. He was probably, if I could imagine this being in the whole other story, if the Mandalorian wasn't here, this guy would have probably died trying to save Baby Yoda. Like, he probably would have tried to sneak him out. But it's just interesting to think about what they were using him for. There, I'm pretty sure they were just scanning him, and he was trying to long it out. Dr. Persha was trying to long out this whole process because he didn't want to extract what was needed. And he even said if it wasn't for me, he wouldn't even been alive this long. So, yeah, I don't know exactly what they were trying to extract out of Baby Yoda. Maybe something enough to build a template of cloning this race for I don't know, whatever reason, because they're, extremely force sensitive, as we know, and maybe the remnants of the Empire wanted to capitalize upon that. Who really knows at the end of the day? It was just a little tidbit clue given to us. So let me know what you think they wanted to extract from Baby Yoda. But when he was leaving, this was just also badass. This should go without saying. He just owned every single one of them, especially that moment when he gets surrounded, and that's when the whistling birds came in. If you guys remember from when the armorer was forging them, and she mentioned how it could take out multiple enemies. Oh man, like this if you're kind of familiar with like bounty hunters or just Mandalorians and the tricks they can have up their sleeves, this was a true showcase moment of that, and it was just brilliant. It was so good. And as he was making his way out, this is where the whole town, because as we know, it's basically governed by many bounty hunters, not only just in that cantina, but they're everywhere. And all the tracking fobs for Baby Yoda started beeping again. And this just reminded me of John Wick 3. If any of you guys know that, without giving too many spoilers away, the brief synopsis of that is that he's on the run from all the other assassins, even though he's an assassin himself. This was just like that. He was on the run from all the other bounty hunters from the Bounty Hunter Guild. I honestly thought in that moment with Grief Karga and everyone surrounding him by his ship, he was going to put the baby down and maybe talk some terms out. Obviously, I thought that it would still end up in a fight, but I didn't expect him, and it was just so good. It's so ballsy that he just did that flip into the cargo transport, and he was holding all of them off there. Like, I just didn't know. The reason why I didn't think that could happen is because I was like, can he really make it work out realistically that he could take out all of these people? Maybe it will happen a little bit later after he gets into a much more advantage of a position, but nope, he literally flipped there and was holding them all off. This was just fantastic. He made the droid drive, and he was just, yeah, true die-hard Mandalorian fashion. And that is when all the other Mandalorians arrived, and it was just so nice, so cool seeing all of these jetpack equipped, Gatling gun equipped Mandalorians fighting all of the other bounty hunters while he made his way back to the Razor Crest. Even though they're going to have to relocate the convert now, which they didn't really seem so much to mind about that. It was just such a wholesome moment. Like, I know it's not like we've seen loads of this Mandalorian family, but even just seeing how much they stick up for each other and how all of them rose out from the ground at once, you just knew in that moment those bounty hunters didn't stand a goddamn chance against all of those Mandalorians, and this was just so impressive. I don't know what more to say than this moment was just very cinematic. It even reminded me of that moment from Jon Favreau before, where all of the Iron Men are like flying up like that, if you remember from that film. It was just, I didn't expect this. And it's nothing but greatness. And oh man, I can't wait till we get maybe some more scenes like this. He took off in the Razor Crest. I loved seeing that other Mandalorian with the jetpack, giving him the sign. And he says, I gotta get me one of those. And from what we know from the trailer, he does get a jetpack. If you remember in that scene where he like jetpacks and grapples onto that ship, so it looks like he will get a jetpack. What I love about what this series is doing is it's kind of like starting in a video game. You have the core character of like the Mandalorian, but you're perking him up, you're ranking him up, you're adding attributes to him along the way, and that's what each episode's doing. They're giving him more armor, giving him more bits, building his character up, building his reputation up, and it's just such a spectacle to witness episode to episode. And I know that sounds like maybe I'm over exaggerating it, but as a huge Star Wars fan, and not necessarily of the kind of new stuff, this is catered so well to people like me. And come on, like Baby Yoda giggling away as he unscrewed that ball again to give to him. That was just very sweet, and it's just very interesting to think now, where is he gonna go? Because he took off and they're obviously heading somewhere, and he's gonna have to get the child into safety. So perhaps the only thing I can assume is that he's going somewhere that he already knows some people may look after him, at least for the time being, or something like that, until something can be figured out. And that's when we're going to be introduced to further characters that we've seen in the trailer and who I can't wait to see make their entrance onto screen. So this episode had everything you could probably want from The Mandalorian. Each episode has been fantastic. I know, as I said, episode 2 was a bit of a pace changer compared to the action. That pilot did everything it needed to do, but it was still great in its own ways. But like episode 3 went back to everything a show can be. Very consistent action, very similar pacing, if not better pacing than episode 1, and I'm a huge fan. And as I said, guys, let me know what you thought of this episode down in the comments below. Like this video if you did enjoy it. If you want to see more Mandalorian kind of breakdowns and recaps and reviews like this, I would greatly appreciate it if you could let me know that down in the comments. So and just even, as I said, leaving a like, because it really does show that you're enjoying this content. Subscribe as well if you want to see that. Man, I'm so excited for the next episode. Check out my past couple of videos here if you are interested. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you Mandalorians in the next video. Goodbye.